So we just started talking about it after that night. And I felt like that coming out was sort of an opening of Pandora's box. I remember the next day telling you, I don't want us to forget that I told you this.
That's what I was going to say. You ended the conversation by being like, this isn't it. This isn't me just telling you a kink that I think I might have. I want to actually explore it. And I kind of left feeling, that feeling when you break up with somebody and it's like really fresh and you're sad, but then it's also kind of like invigorating. That's how it felt for a while, because we didn't break up, but our relationship was changed. Even if we weren't going to pursue this journey, it was going to be different.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 345. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have a special guest recording with us right now. His name is Hank. And he's a cat.
Hank the cat. We learned that if you put a microphone in front of a cat, it will attack it.
It's a toy for the cat.
Emma told me that wasn't a smart idea.
You did it anyway.
I agree. Well, we determined that afterwards. So anyway, our microphone survived.
And Hank the cat is hanging out while we record this intro and outro today.
Purring quietly in the background.
Yes.
All right, enough of our animal shenanigans.
Today we have a lovely interview with Taylor and Kuran. We are so excited to get this out there. They have been together since 2017, exploring non-monogamy, and at least talking about it since 2021, and currently have a mono-poly dynamic.
But not just any mono-poly dynamic. No. And for anybody who doesn't know what a mono-poly dynamic is, that's where one partner is monogamous and the other partner is polyamorous or open. And in this case, actually the monogamous partner, Kuran, brought non-monogamy to the table. And honestly, I'm not sure we've ever met anybody who has more compersion or is more full of compersion for his partner than Kuran is for Taylor. So yeah, just beautiful.
This is a wonderful, wonderful interview, as we said. Thank you both so much for coming on and for sharing everything that you did.
And one other quick little plug here up front. If you're not sure what compersion is, we just talked about it a little bit there, but the quick definition is sort of when you feel joy for somebody else's joy, or when you feel happiness for somebody else's happiness. And actually, we've got a better idea for you than just reading or listening to us talk about it. One of our close friends, Marie Tuin, who is...
awesome. She's awesome.
She's awesome. We
that didn't come out the way I wanted to, but she's an amazing, badass human.
Yeah, we host events with Marie every month out here in the Bay. We've had her on the podcast for our Focus Fridays, episode 5 from season 2, talking about compersion, and just wanted to do a quick plug for Marie because she did her PhD on compersion and actually just released a book called What is Compersion? Understanding Positive Empathy in Consensually Non-Monogamous Relationships. And because Marie is a tight friend of the show and does amazing work, we wanted to tell you all about her book that you can go and buy now. And because you're amazing and Marie is amazing, she sent us a code to get 25% off when you order the book through the link that's in the podcast show notes and using the discount code. Just to be clear, this is not an affiliate link. We're not getting a kickback from this. That is your 25% to take home, and you get the book and you get to learn all about compersion. And again, I would just say you don't have to be as full of compersion as Kuran.
No, there's a spectrum for sure. And it's wonderful if you are, and it's okay if you're not.
Yes. So that's, I think, one thing we wanted to say up front here is this is, again, beautiful as we've said, but please do not feel like if you are not riding the compersion wave like Kuran, that you are failing at non-monogamy or failing at life or in any way, shape, or form not measuring up.
Correct.
Okay. That was a lot of talking just to introduce our amazing guest today. Thank you for hanging in there with us. And thank you for buying Marie's book.
Yes, we really wanted to get that out there as well. For anyone who's a premium subscriber, we're going to jump into the interview with Taylor and Kuran now. And for anyone else, we're going to go through a couple of our regular exciting announcements.
Exciting and quick. We're going to keep them quick because we talked a lot about compersion.
If you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front, jump right into the interview, but don't worry, you still get important dates in the outro. To sign up, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, scroll down on the homepage and sign up there. Some of those important dates that you'll still hear about in the outro, but are still important. The first one, September 13th to the 15th. 2024. Our community retreat is coming up. We are super excited about this. To find out a lot more information, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the community tab.
Yeah, there is a link there that will show you the entire program guide for the weekend. And just to be clear, what are we talking about with a community retreat? Well, every week you hear us talk about our virtual community of almost 300 people from all over the world who love and support one another all day, every day. That is who we're talking about. We're getting this group of amazing people together in person. We're trying to do this a few times a year, and the next time we're doing it is September here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So if you would like to, you've been holding out on joining the community because it's all virtual. I'm tired of virtual because COVID, blah, blah, blah. Well, here's your opportunity to meet amazing community members in person. Please check it out. Come join us. We would love to have you join us. We'd love to see you out here in the Bay, and we'd love to see you in the community. Again, all of the information that you can learn about the community retreat and joining the virtual community is on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community tab, or there are direct links in your podcast player below.
Next up, a reminder that the week of visibility for non-monogamy is coming up July 15th to the 19th. We are super excited about this week. To find out more about all of the week's activities, you can go to weekofvisibility.com. But we also have been telling you about the fact that we are going to be doing a workshop during this week. We have more details on it. We're super excited. It is going to be on Wednesday, July 17th from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. And the workshop is there a right way to do non-monogamy? This is a free workshop. Finn and I have led before. We really love doing this, and we can't wait to have many of you join.
Yeah, and to be clear, this is a virtual workshop. You can join from anywhere in the world, and it's an interactive workshop. You'll be in Zoom breakout rooms. You'll be talking with people. You'll be meeting people. It's not just us sitting and talking at you. So yeah, we love this workshop. People have given us great feedback on it, and we're super excited to do it. Also, a quick note, when you go to sign up, as Emma said, this is a free workshop. You will be you'll be reserving your ticket through the app Plura, which is an amazing service that we've been working with. You formerly know them as Bloom. Bloom Community is now Plura. Just wanted to put a plug out there. So when you get redirected to Plura, that is the ticketing service and the event service. The great thing about that is once you join, once you get your ticket, once you are signed up, you can see the other people who are signed up and you can interact on the app in a chat with them. So you actually get to start building your community well before the workshop.
To sign up, you can find the links in your podcast player. Also on our website, there's a banner at the top you can sign up, and in the podcast show notes on our website for this episode.
There's no excuse for you not to find it.
We will see you all on July 17th.
We will. See you there.
Next up, a reminder for our favorite way to get tested for STIs. You hear us talking about it every week. It is stdcheck.com. This is such a great service. It is fast and simple and discreet. It is the service that Finn and I use and we have loved for years.
And if you sign up using the links on our website, on the resources tab or in your podcast show notes, you will save $10, which brings the cost of a 10-panel test down to $129, and it helps support the show financially. So thank you in advance for doing that. And thank you for listening to all of these announcements up front. We know this got a little longer this week. We've been trying to keep them shorter, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the community. And as much as this show is about telling stories and having people get their story out there, it is also about helping people find resources to connect them, to connect you to other people and to build up your community. So again, thank you for your patience. We appreciate you.
A reminder, you can reach out to us, send us a voicemail or an email and on the Contact Us button of our website. And yes, we definitely appreciate all of you. Also, quick note, Hank is still hanging out with us. If anyone was curious, he's still here.
And he has not attacked us.
No, he's stretching.
He's stretching, yawning. All right. We will see all of you on the other side of this amazing conversation with Taylor and Kuran.
Let's go.
Here we go. Welcome to the podcast, Taylor and Kuran. We're super excited to talk to you tonight, and infant child that we may not hear, but we may. We'll see. But we're super excited to have you two here. Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having us. We are excited to be here, or I am. Are you excited to be here?
I'm very excited to be here.
Okay.
It's also a Wednesday evening in the middle of the week, and you all
Late
have
at
a lot
night.
of kids.
Yeah,
So
yes.
we'll get going.
Yeah. Maybe let's start with just having you two introduce yourself for anybody who doesn't know who you are and who doesn't come to our virtual meet and greets because they don't know what's good for them, so they haven't met you there. Tell us a little about the two of you.
You want to kick it off?
Oh, no, I would like you to kick it off. You signed us up for this.
Great. Yeah, for sure. So I'm Kuran. I'm a 37-year-old and work in human resources. So cool, sexy stuff. I've been a big fan of the podcast for a while, but I reached out to make a comment when you had one of those question and answer forums that specifically talked about the mono-poly kind of dynamic and what that looks like. And we'll delve into a little more, but we are in one of those dynamics with myself as the monogamous person in the relationship, but I'm an advocate for this lifestyle and non-monogamy. And so I wanted to kind of share that aspect of the story.
Yeah, I like to say that Kuran is polysaturated at 1 because truly I think he's a little bit more into the lifestyle and the community than I am. I think you'll probably feel that in our conversation too. I'm passionate about it, and I've learned a lot about myself in this journey with him, which has been really great. Oh, also I'm Taylor, Kuran's wife. Sorry, forgot. I'm not going to say how old I am because I didn't know that was a requirement.
It's not.
29 forever.
Perfect. Yeah, I just want to say too, thank you, Kuran, for reaching out. Right, this is one of the traps out there for people who don't know. If you ping us on like social media or send us an email, you might end up on the show. So you're just saying like, "Hey, thanks, that was a really great episode. I really appreciate it." I was like, "How about you be an episode?" And yeah, here we are. So thank you.
It's a spot on, exact what the message was.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm curious, how long have you two been together?
7 years.
Yep. We met in February of 2017. I was at home on vacation, visiting and swiping the apps like you do. And we both swiped right on each other and been together pretty much ever since. There's a little bit more journey in there, but yeah, we've been
That's
pretty much
the gist.
Yeah.
And before that, had either of you ever been into, explored, had exposure to non-monogamy or the lifestyle or any of this?
No.
No, not ethical. I had been cheated on previously, and I had conflicting feelings on what that meant. And some of your other guests have mentioned, and I agree, where even at a young age in like high school at parties or whatever, I'd always kind of had the feeling of like, well, if people want to make out, like, why does it have to be something? Like, if friends can like get together and hook up or do whatever, why does sex or making out or doing physical stuff? Why can't that just be a thing that people do together? I don't know that I ever really vocalized that, and no one ever really seemed to share that. And so, but I've always kind of felt that.
Yeah. How about you, Taylor?
No, previously super jealous, really in the monogamy world, and that's pretty terrible in hindsight. But yeah, I'm pretty open person though. Like Kuran actually approached me with this, even though he is the monogamous one, and it was not like an immediate shutdown or anything. So maybe it was always kind of in the back of my mind that it different can be okay. Just didn't know that it was for me necessarily.
Yeah.
I'd also like to reframe, if you were in the monogamy world for a while and feeling really jealous, like that's really common. So like there's not anything necessarily terrible about that. It's just an experience, right? So like moving forward till now, it sounds like both of you have gone on quite different journeys together and individual, it sounds like, since before 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I think that's accurate.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Well, then let's go on the journey together. I'm curious, how did you bring this up, or what prompted you to bring this up for the first time, Kuran?
Sure. So the very first time, it would have been 2021. So we've been together a couple of years, 2 kids in at that point. Taylor, as she mentioned, always been a super open person, always been kind of a, open about her sexuality, open about accepting other people, just kind of being, a very understanding, empathetic person who I'd never felt any judgment from her or anything like that. And there was one particular night where a friend of hers had come to visit us. We were living out in California at the time, and a hometown friend came to visit. And I'd heard stories of her and this friend, and they were wild together. And she would watch her friend's child while the friend went out, and then they would work together and swap and take shots behind the bar and just do what, in my opinion, what more wild stuff than I had ever encountered. Right. So when she just came to visit, things had settled down by this point in life, but always in the back of my head, I was just thinking, man, it would be kind of hot, I think, if she went out and it's a weird feeling because I never want to be cheated on. People talk about the stag, vixen, hot wife, but I'm not really a cuckold in that regard. I don't want it, but the idea of her going out and being oh, well, if she met out with a guy at a bar with this friend that I know has a wild past, I think that would be kind of cool, and I would not be upset with that. And they did go out. Nothing happened because we had never had that conversation or anything. But the next day, when she came home,
Oh, no. It was at 3:00 in the morning that night when I came home because he had gone home to be with the kids to relieve the babysitter. And I came home much later from being out. And it was that night. So
thank you for the
set him straight. Set him straight.
It was the next day.
I guess.
Technically.
But you're right. Because I was in a slightly altered state of mind. And I was like, hey, just so you know, I would have been okay if you had done this. And I think I probably would have liked it. And she was like, what are you talking about? And then I kind of explained, well, I know you had a wild past and you were out with your friend. And I was kind of in my head, kind of thinking that would be cool if you did something. And it was kind of that night was just whoa, okay, well, whatever. We can, no judgment, but it was just okay, cute, let's go to bed or whatever. We'll talk about it later. But it felt for me, in a sense, sort of a coming out of sorts, that oh, I didn't know any of the words for any of this stuff. I didn't know I'd never looked at Reddit or online, or I had no resources for it, but I was just that wouldn't bother me if you went out and did this stuff. And I think I would actually kind of like it. So can we just kind of talk about that and what that means? And she was willing to listen to what that is. And then I started delving into the research because I'm that kind of a person about what are the different labels and names. And, oh, there is the lifestyle. And what first I got into, which wasn't really my bag, was the cuckold kind of stuff. That was kind of what initially pops up. And I was nah, that kind of sounds like it, but it's not really the thing that I think that I would really be into. But that's all that I can find right now because I don't have other words, So it was the, Cato the Younger, the Stoic philosopher, says, bitter are the roots of study, but how sweet the fruit. So it was kind of painful to go through this when you're oh, this is hard and this sucks, but I think it's going to be good in the end. So we just started talking about it after that night. And I felt that coming out was sort of an opening of Pandora's box. I remember the next day telling you, I don't want us to forget that I told you this.
That's what I was going to say. You ended the conversation by being this isn't it. This isn't me just telling you a kink that I think I might have. I want to actually explore it. And I kind of left feeling, that feeling when you break up with somebody and it's really fresh and you're sad, but then it's also kind of invigorating.
Yeah.
That's how it felt for a while because we didn't break up, but our relationship was changed. Even if we weren't going to pursue this journey, it was going to be different. So I had to sit in that for a little while, and it wasn't bad, but it just was, it was shocking. I've never been in a relationship where somebody felt that way. And I don't feel that way. And I think that's hard. Or I didn't at the time.
Didn't feel as if you want, right? Kuran comes to you and says, I think it would be awesome if you would go and do these things. And you're probably, what I'm hearing is you're kind of in your head going okay, but I don't feel like that would be awesome if you went and did those things.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
How did it feel to hear from him? Even I hear the loss, maybe a potential loss or grief of what our relationship was. But I'm curious, how did it land to hear that he was thinking not only would I have been okay with it, but this might have been kind of cool. Was there any part of you that was going out that night being man, I kind of left that part of me behind. I wish I could have that again? Or had you sort of just put it away?
I think I had sort of just put it away. I've always been a very like open sexually, and I've never felt like repressed in my sexuality, which I feel very grateful for, very lucky, because I don't think a lot of people feel that way. But you kind of just, you grow up monogamous, you get married, you have kids, and it's like, yeah, this is kind of it. And I was okay with that. I just recently learned the term ambiamorous. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like I fall into that. Like, I don't feel stuck or complacent being monogamous, but I also really enjoy being polyamorous. But being in that middle ground is kind of where I lie. So I think I would have been okay. However, I've really enjoyed not remaining monogamous.
Yeah.
So that's one great thing that I've learned for myself.
Yeah, amazing. And that night, though, I'm curious, like that night into the next day, again, I know there's like a bit of loss there, but I'm curious what was going on for you, just because we don't get the chance to like pick at people's brains like this as much as I wish we could. I could do this 10 times a day and never get bored with it. So
it was exciting, but also very scary. And I was probably not that night, but after a couple of days, I downloaded an app, just like really softly started talking to people, dipping my toe in. But it was scary because I was like, well, what if I do this and it turns out you don't like it? Then what happens? Then
I didn't want your life to blow up.
Right. I'm like, then I am this person who has done this thing to you. Even though you asked me to, I'm the one who is doing something.
Yeah.
And that was difficult to kind of get through. And it was a lot of trust needed.
I remember that being like the biggest hurdle and the biggest conversation. It was a day or so later. Bottom line up front, we jumped into it pretty quick, right?
Sounds like it. Yeah.
There was not I hear a lot of people, go over years and years and mull it over. This was like a matter of weeks for us. But I specifically remember a day or so later, me just checking in, hey, how are you feeling about everything? Like, where are you landed? Cause I knew that she downloaded an app, and I was like, so what are you feeling? And she was like, I need you to not talk to me about it like for a little while, because I still need to sit with it, because and she was very candid and I appreciated it. She was just like, I thought my life was going to be different. I'm respecting what you had to say, but when you grow up thinking your life will look a certain way, and it clearly now is not going to look the way you thought it was going to look, that needs some time, right? Mm-hmm. And I appreciated also her honesty, and that's just the back and forth, because we'd always had good communication, and that just it amped it up. We talk a whole lot more about everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious too, Taylor. If there was like this process of like, is this actually what I want right now? Questioning that as well.
Oh, totally. And something that Kuran always still says, he's like, I don't want you to just be doing this for me. I want you to be doing it because you want to do it also. And so that took me some time to be like, oh, do I want to be doing this also? Because I was excited. I've always liked connection. I've always liked sex. I always have liked falling in love. And that is something when you get married. I mean, you can fall in love in different ways, but like, it's never that fresh, new, like exciting thing. And I think that's kind of what excited me the most, which is how we also made that transition from being like a hotwifing situation to the polyamory. Because I pretty quickly was like, I need more than just a physical connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I think even from that very beginning, before we had all of the words and everything, I knew that it would become something different.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like, just to kind of clarify, it doesn't sound like there was necessarily like an ultimatum or a pressure, like, hey, this is the thing we're going to do now. Cause you're kind of saying like, well, I thought my life was going to be different. And it sounds like you still had the choice to make it different if you wished, right? You didn't have to go down this path, but it sounded like a lot of, is this the path I want to go down? How do we go down it? And what is that really going to mean for us?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he never made me feel like it was an ultimatum, but having him say like, I don't want to just tell you this and then not go anywhere with it. I knew we would explore it on some level.
Yeah.
But yeah, figuring out what that was part of it.
And so how did it go? You download the app, you're kind of still in like the talking, but like you said, it kind of kicked off pretty quick.
Yeah, it did. I matched with a guy who was in a similar situation where his partner was mono and he was poly. So that was kind of my first experience, which was great because I knew nothing and he knew a lot of things. And he was just very kind and very understanding. And it was a really good place to start from, I think.
Yeah. So just to give like some timeline context, I think we had a conversation in May, and then she met this first gentleman in June.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was really quick, and he traveled into the area, so it was also kind of nice because they both kind of understood the dynamic. And at the time, it was more just like a physical thing, but and like the hotwifing stuff. But because his partner, they were reversed basically. He understood it, and so that was a nice, easy transition into what it could also look like, because they were more on the polyamorous side. He was on that aspect of it, so he was able to kind of introduce some things to Taylor that she could then bring back to me and be like, "Hey, well, what about this? Like, we're doing it this way, but I think we could also do it, this way."
Yeah. Can I be curious about what were those different sort of elements that got brought in those early days? Because you were kind of just going in like, I don't know, this sounds hot. Go have a good time.
We started actually, you downloaded some app that we could see who I was texting, that we could both see who I was texting. So it kind of started like that, and doing like sexting that he could then see. And to be quite honest, he wrote several of my responses. Just, you're good with the words. But I think that part was fun for you also, like engaging in that way.
Yeah. And it started off that way. Yeah. And it was, some like third party app or whatever that had one number that went to several phones, and all consensual. People knew what was going on. So I don't want to.
Yeah. Nothing was deceitful. Sorry.
But we quickly moved away to that because she was like, she had met some other people that were like, that she really liked. And she was like, they're not really into that. They don't want you to know so much, or you to like be involved. And so I had to think about that. And I was like, well, selfishly, I was like, well, I kind of brought this up for me, but I'm being a hypocrite because I always told her that I want it to be, she also wants to get something out of it, and she likes these guys and they don't like this aspect of it. But it's really about both of us. And so she can bring what she gets out of it back to our relationship. So that was some growth on my part that I had to go through. But ultimately she was like, I don't really want to share stuff with you that he or I don't want to share with you. And I ultimately was good. Okay, great. Because her happiness and I learned the word compersion and all that ends up coming out there. I'm like, oh, seeing you happy is really at the end of it. And the sex is cool, but it's the compersion I get of seeing her be happy, and the joy that she experiences with other people. That's what I have since learned in the years, that's more what I get out of it.
That's amazing. I think it's also just a huge shift, right? To go from it kind of feels to me like a moment of being in the bed at 3 a.m. where you first come to her saying like, hey, this is a thing I'd like to kind of do. And she's going, well, okay, my world's not going to be the same. And now it's kind of going the other direction. Like, okay, we started there, but there's a new sort of paradigm shift that then you get to chew on. I just kind of find that really interesting. Like you're both open each other's eyes and worlds up in new ways, like kind of pushing each other along the route.
I've never thought of it that way, but that seems accurate. So thanks for pointing that.
I'm here for you. I'm here all night.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks, man.
I was going to say, I think the growth that we've both experienced from each other in this has just been incredible and has made our relationship so much stronger. Not that it was weak before, but you can always get stronger.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Would you mind digging into that a little bit? Like what are some of the ways, we'll complete the story. We don't have to worry, but I'm just curious, what are some of the ways that you two have seen each other kind of grow through this, or felt yourselves grow through this?
Something that was huge for me is that and I think a lot of women could probably agree with this who grow up monogamous, is that I always felt like I was in such competition with other women, and that could not be further from the truth. So that is one way that I've like personally grown. And I don't think I ever would have gotten there if I hadn't gone on this journey with you. And that's been huge for me in all relationships. Not just sexual, but like my friendships as well. And then I think that has helped us too. I mean, just you start to understand people so much differently on different levels when these little, like, how do I say it? When you learn something about yourself and then your partner is able to learn that about you with you, it just creates such a different space. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Also, just with respect to her growth and what I think is so great about our dynamic and what we do is the way it has evolved and changed, kind of as I talked about earlier, is just seeing her happiness and her joy. Again, a lot of women, especially mothers in particular, get swept into this identity of they're a mother, right? And then that's all they are. You know, they have friends that are the nannies at the park, right? Or they get caught up in child rearing, and we have 4 kids. I don't know if that's been brought up yet, but 4 children is not a joke. Like it's
a lot of children.
It's a lot of children, right? For especially if they're all under 6 years old. So it's busy. It's a busy household, and the joy that it gives me, I feel so proud of myself that I can provide her the space to watch the kids and to be a dad. It's not babysitting or whatever. I'm a co-equal parent in this, but having her go out and meet new people and meet connections and be her own woman and be an adult living in society and going away for a weekend with a lover and not having to think about what's going on here and knowing that everything's taken care of and that it has allowed me to step up in a way that I think I was capable of, but that I'm excited to do. Right. So I am like, hey, why don't you and so go away, for the weekend or whatever and go do this thing. I got the kids. Don't worry about it, because she shows up as a mother so much stronger when she has those opportunities to go away and refresh and reconnect with herself, that when she comes back, she's a phenomenal mom. And that's not because of me, but I love that I can provide that for her. And then I get the gratification from the compersion aspect that it makes me feel really, really fucking good to do that. And so I've heard, people are like, well, she gets to do all these things and you're just home with the kids. That I do not view that like at all. I take it as this fantastic opportunity for me to, I don't know, provide. I'm not providing, but and I'm not letting you, it's hard to try to find the words for it, but it feels good for me to be able to do that.
It's providing a space for me to be my own person. What I think you're trying to say.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And encouraging it.
Yeah.
And yes.
Well, and I think what gets tricky in here, and I hear you kind of trying to dance this out, Karen, and I totally get it, right? It's the whole, I let her be a mom. If I didn't, or I let her be a woman, I let her be herself. If I didn't let her, she would just be locked in here. And that's really what you're trying to get away from. Is just like, we're creating an equal playing field where we can both be us. And this is a way that you can kind of do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I want to emphasize is there is no controlling aspect to this. It's, I love it for her, and I want her to be able to have those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, hey, go away and have a great weekend, but make sure you come home with at least 65 photos, at least 10 videos, and at least 3 stories. Like, it's go be you, and I'll see you when you get home. And I can't wait to see how happy you are.
That's 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also,
nailed it.
Yeah. I love it. I'm also curious too, like how, because you've already said like 4 kids is a lot, and how do you also create time and intention for your relationship, and like how I think that might be a curiosity of some people's as well.
How do you bring it back?
Yeah. I honestly think in terms of our sex life, it's way better when I am dating, because I think there is more intentionality coming back to reconnect after I'm away with somebody else. Because when it's just us and the kids at home, it's like, oh, we're so tired. And we've been together all day and we've been touched out all day by our kids that it's kind of like, at the end of the day, we're like, all right, love you, good night, nothing. But when I get that space, because it's not just space from you, from the kids, it's from you as well. I think it makes it even better coming back together, having that time apart. So when I'm not dating, I don't know. What do you think? It's like it's scheduled, right? Like we have to schedule out our time.
For sure. And that's true. So it sounds boring or whatever, but it's the truth. It's right now. I don't want to speak for you, but right now she's on a little bit of a hiatus, just had a baby, not really going out, still in the newborn phase with toddlers. So there's not a lot of time for it. But I agree with you. I think because it is something that I enjoy and you enjoy, it does help kind of keep that spark. And so when it's not there, not that it doesn't exist, but you have to be much more intentional about it. So whether that is scheduling it, I think Esther Perel talks about, you need to schedule it and make sure that you make time for that. We do that, just so that we can, keep the spark alive.
I don't think that's boring, by the way. I think that's life.
There you go. Well, thank you.
And intentionality.
I appreciate that. But sex is important to both of us. And so we prioritize that where we can.
Yeah. I'm curious, and this isn't, I think I hear people in their cars asking this question, and so I'm going to ask it on their behalf. Like for you, Kuran, it sounds like you collect a lot of energy from this. You have a great time. It makes you feel good. Are there ways that you find yourself being like, okay, now it's not like a setup, right? It's not like you're going to go away for a weekend so I can get something, but are you finding ways for yourself that you also are sort of pumping in energy to your sort of autonomy and individuality and like finding more of who you are on this path as well?
Yes and no. And yeah, good for that answer. But yes and no, because one, I work outside the home. And so I have a lot more opportunity where right now Taylor is a professional, but right now with the baby, she's not working outside the home. So I'm able to get some of those connections, platonic connections, just, in day-to-day life, just being gone, right? Coworkers will go out to lunch or you guys can chat. It's not the same. We move a lot for my job. And so I have, and I've been doing it for about 16 years now. So I've kind of gotten used to not making super deep connections anywhere we go because we move every couple of years. So I'm used to that with respect to like filling the connection aspect of or network or whatever, wherever I go. So that hasn't really been an issue. And then I'm able to make time, to like go to the gym or to do that kind of stuff during my workday. I'm very fortunate that my job has that sort of flexibility. So a lot of the stuff that I need, I can take care of kind of during the day when I have that availability. And it sounds whatever, but I get tons of joy playing with my kids and doing those kind of things. So like where do I get filled up? I truly get filled up like at home and doing those things. Being a dad is like my favorite thing on the planet. So
you also have an hour commute each day where you spend a lot of your time listening to podcasts and audiobooks, specifically about the lifestyle, which I think you've really immersed yourself into. And I know he always says that he wants to be more in the community, but you kind of feel like an outsider since you aren't the one that participates, right? So I think you are searching for that a little bit within this space, but you do a lot of the work as far as learning the terms and listening to the podcast and reading. And that's brought a lot to this relationship as well. But you make a lot of space for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that is true, I guess. I have felt, so I know you all have a community. There's other lifestyle and non-monogamy communities that exist in the virtual world. One thing I have struggled with is I have, part parents and friends that you can chat to, but there's only so much when, they'll be like, oh, where's Taylor? And I'm like, oh, she went out of town for the weekend. Right. And then you see him every day and they're like, oh, is Taylor still gone? I'm like, yeah, where'd she go? Oh, she went here for the weekend. But here, I just don't like lying. I like to live authentically. And one of my ethos is to foster an environment where others can live authentically as well. So one thing like I tried to do on a meetup was say, like on a lifestyle meetup for our local area, I was like, are there any polyamorous parents that want to get together just for like a play date? Right. And there was a resounding no, actually. They were like, no, we don't really want to do that. But I don't think there'd be a lot of interest. So thanks. And then I reached out to Open for their week of visibility. And I was like, hey, I think it would be cool if one of the days was like families and parents to be able to talk about that, so that our kids can kind of be friends with other kids whose parents are in maybe a similar dynamic, or something. And then it's kind of felt weird because the question that I fear of getting, kind of like what you asked, Finn, which I think people are going to wonder, is like, when is the other shoe going to drop, or when are you going to want to get involved, or when is, and I have no desire for that, but doing the research and reading the books and doing the podcasts and all those kind of things, I've been like, oh, this is truly where my brain's at. I just have no desire, none, sexually, to explore connections outside of my marriage. And she jokingly says that I'm polysaturated at one, because I just want the one relationship with her, but I feel more aligned, I guess, emotionally, spiritually, with the polyamorous, non-monogamous lifestyle, swinging, all the communities, like, but hey, I'm this monogamous guy who like kind of wants to be in the party. And so it kind of feels awkward, if that makes sense, to try and like insert myself in something that I feel like I'm kind of a fraud. That's a dance that I still haven't quite figured out the steps to.
I'm going to chime in with my own opinions about it. So my opinion is, it's actually, to me, it's one of the coolest dynamics I've seen in quite a while. And I think what's really fucking cool about it is, this is not like, Taylor, you're not excited. Like, clearly you're enjoying yourself, you're having a great time, but to see a monopoly dynamic where the monogamous person is truly just all in on it, right? You're the one who found it. You're the one who brought it up. You're the one who researches it. And sure, initially, was it some hotwifing? I was into that for maybe like a sexual experimental standpoint. Sure. But you didn't hang there. You didn't hang your hat on it and say, okay, well, it's either you go out and bring it back to me or you're done. This is truly about the experience and the life of this, and that you just live it, and you're getting, like, I think you're just as much in it as anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's just really freaking cool about it to me. And so,
well, I think, you don't have to have multiple partners to feel aligned in that community. Like, there's just, many people go through different phases of life too, where they may not have any partners and they still feel really aligned in that community. And I think that that's just a testament to the mindset of it all, of, and the community aspect. And, I also, like, who knows where the future will take either of you, right? Like, this is where we're at today, and likely, you could feel pretty confident, I don't think this is going to change. And that may be true. And you don't know for either one of you, right? For any of us.
Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm also going to do a quick plug here, because I know you haven't joined our community. You're not technically in our community, but I just want to say this to you, but also to the group of people listening. We have a lot of monogamous people in the community, many partners who are in the monopoly dynamic, and they're in there loving it and supporting each other, dove in, and it's just really great. Like, they fit in just like everybody else, and most people don't even know a difference. And that's what's really cool about it, is that everybody gets to play in the sandbox together in their own way, and nobody's going like, but what? Yeah, clearly Kuran's, he's angling for something. Give him a couple more years. He's going to try to sneak something in here. It's like, you just accept it for what it is. And I think it's because it is in some ways, it's turning everything on its head. Like, this is not something that you would hear probably 99.9% of people. And then I'm going to say, let alone men, bringing to the table and saying, this truly makes me happy. So I think it's amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Sorry to keep putting you on the spot with all the compliments, both of you.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah. I'm also curious, you alluded to the fact that, or you shared that right now you're kind of on a break, understandably so. But like, in general, kind of where's the dynamic that you've landed? I know sometimes you've talked about, like, Taylor, you go away for weekends and stuff, but like, what does that actually look like for you?
What I would like for the future, I would like to have another partner who would live with us and be another parent and to our kids, another grown up for our kids. Ultimately, that is what I would like. Kind of in the interim, I'm just letting relationships be what they are. I was seeing someone else pretty seriously over the summer, and it ended a little badly. And then we also then we're having another baby. So it's kind of nice to take a step back and take a break and kind of reevaluate what that can look like or should look like or what we want it to look like. And I still ultimately think that I would like to have another partner that is with us. I don't know. I guess right now I don't know what that does look like. I know what it did look like, but now I'm kind of like, what does it look like with another kid? I don't know.
And that's okay. You don't have to know. You don't have to know.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah.
So with her previous partner, he was also polyamorous, and so was his wife. But it was
like kind
right. It ultimately ended because it got weird in like that she then became really jealous, and then there was like some other aspects with one of her boyfriend, and that's their story to tell. But it ended up getting really messy because there had been conversation of like, oh, it would be cool if like, to us fantasy land, like we all live in some commune and we can have kids together and like it'd be like this beautiful harmonious thing, which I would be down for. But then it kind of got nasty and like a little gross in my opinion towards Taylor, and the whole thing kind of put an ick factor in our mouths. So yeah, we're open to communication with one another about what that can look like, but it didn't it didn't end greatly.
Yeah. Well, and leading up to that, like sort of the journey from hot wife into polyamory, right? Hey, I want a little bit deeper. I want a little bit more. Did those sort of couple of years in there, sounds like it was maybe 2-ish years, 2 to 3 years in there that you were kind of doing this. Was that sort of like you had a sort of one or two like kind of consistent partners, or was it sort of just dating, or it sounds like, I mean, you kind of said it, like you just kind of let things be what they are. I think was just a little bit curious about what that kind of looked like for those couple of years.
I feel like I had a lot of there was some one night stands. There was some that lasted for a few weeks, a few months. Again, with the moving, it kind of is a little bit difficult. And then we also travel back home, and I would have some partners there too. So that was kind of like a monthly. I like to establish more of a connection. The one night stands are fun, totally. And I think they are what they are, which is great and hot and dirty and raunchy. And then you just kind of leave them. But I definitely like the more consistent. But the person that I saw over this last summer, maybe was that 2 summers ago? It doesn't matter. Was the most serious and the most long-term so far. And I really enjoyed that. That's the first time in this experience that I feel like I fell in love with somebody again. And that was really fun and really exciting. And not to discount the other people that I was dating, because it was fun and exciting in a different way. But I think getting that taste of it was like, oh, this is definitely what I'm wanting from this experience and from this life.
Yeah. Some deep, like a bit of a deeper,
deeper connection. Yeah. A deeper emotional connection.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And I'm curious, just through all of these sort of iterations and conversations and the ways that it's ebbed and flowed, have you two come up against places where one or the other of you brings something up and it's like, this is sort of what I'm thinking in it, and you two don't fall into alignment? I think because you seem to be just like in pretty damn good lockstep, and that's amazing. And I'm not trying to force you into having problems, but I'm just curious if it's been, has there been anything that's come up that's been tough?
Yes. But not really between us, I would say. It's more of like, I get put in this place of like, oh, you get to do whatever you want. You get to date whoever you want, and you don't have to worry about your husband doing anything.
Like not, you're not living by me. Not by me.
Right. Other people, other partners, or just other, people who it's really none of their business, but that's something that I get often. But again, that's not really between us, but that is something that I've dealt with that's been difficult several times.
Like people just don't actually understand the situation.
Yes. And they don't understand how he could actually be okay with it, and that I'm living in like a fantasy land or whatever.
I would like to interject that no one comes to me about that. They all go to her and they're like, how could you do this? What are you doing to him? And she is a a awesome, kind, wonderful woman who doesn't throw me under the bus and be like, it was his fucking idea from the beginning, right? She doesn't do that, but she's like, it's something that, she says it more tactfully, but I think that's a shame, in my opinion, that they don't, it's very easy to point fingers, and especially maybe go to the woman and be like, and what are you doing? Like this, like Bathsheba person, but it's like, no one is willing to come to me and have that conversation with me about it. So that's a little frustrating.
Well, and it was funny in the beginning because it's not something you even considered. Where we were when we first started this was a very small community, and there was like one place to go to get a drink. And I'm like, someone's going to see me. And I asked her, and I was like, what do I do? What are people going to think? Somebody that you work with sees me, like whatever. And he's like, oh my God, they're going to think you're not getting any at home. And I'm like, that's not what they're going to think. Their immediate reaction is not going to be that I'm not getting taken care of at home. It's going to be like, Taylor is cheating on her husband. So it like wasn't even a thought in your mind.
You're correct. I hadn't even registered it, but we talked since then, but I remember that conversation.
And it was like within a week of having that conversation with you, somebody that I worked with was like, how could you do this to him? And I was like, he like quite literally asked me to. I don't understand what you mean. And the reason I confided in this person again is because I'm like, it's small. They're going to see me out. There's going to be questions. I'd rather be upfront and honest, tell you what's going on, and hope that I was met with support. And I thought that I was, and I wasn't.
Yeah, that was hard.
Yeah.
And because of that, because that was at the beginning when this was all kind of new, and also understandably, this was a friend of hers and a woman that she worked with that she's referring to. So you want to be able to talk to someone about it, right? Like a friend of yours, like, hey, my husband brought this thing up and I need to process it and I want to talk with someone about it, right? And then being met with that, it's because we both value living authentically so much. We kind of, as far as like who knows, we're not telling people. I mean, this podcast is one thing, but we're not telling people, but we're not. You know what I mean? We don't feel like the need to shout it from a mountain, but at the same time, we don't feel like we necessarily need to put it on our Instagram bio or whatever, that this is who we're not.
Yeah.
We've told people like on an as need to know basis.
Yeah. That was actually going to be my next question. So
it's wild to think about some of the reactions you're getting, because in some ways it sounds like there's bits of like envy or jealousy creeping in from people, like, oh, you get to do this? Like, why the hell does Taylor get to do this? And her husband's sitting at home with the kids being, dad of the year, and I can't get help with anything. Right. And so it's almost like you're living the life that everybody wishes they had, and they're taking it out on you.
I also think that's true. The first time that I met my first Meta, she said to me, you're living the dream. Like, you get to go out and do this. And she's like, I get to do it too, but my husband's also out there dating you. And it felt like to her that it was very unfair. And I was like, I don't know what to say to you. I'm very sorry. And I ask her all the time, has this changed? Do you want to explore? Like, we have these conversations a lot. And I said at the beginning of this that I, in my previous life, was very jealous and didn't feel the way that Kuran did. But we have talked recently about, like, I think that if you wanted to date, it would be hard for me, but I would get there. And I know that I would. And I don't know that I will ever reach the level of compersion that you have, but maybe. But that's just another.
Yeah. And that's okay too. You don't have to reach that level of compersion. You may, but yeah.
I'm curious, just my own curiosity. Taylor, have you gotten into the podcast or anything in the same way that Kuran has? Or are you just sort of like, I'm just doing it. I'm just kind of doing my thing, and it's just doing it.
I'm just doing it. If we're in the car together, he's got his little 2 times speed on the podcast that makes everybody sound like real drunk and weird, but I listen to it and I enjoy it. When I do listen, I enjoy it a lot. But I don't have the time, the same kind of time. When I'm in the car, it's with 4 children, which is where I think I would listen to it and I would enjoy it, but I can't do that in the car with 4 children. But he's very good at giving me the bits and pieces that he thinks that I would enjoy or appreciate, or that he really took away something from. And then that allows us to have that conversation together, which is a little more beneficial for me, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And she's not wrong. I trained my ear to double speed on Audible and on the podcast app. So I just burned through them real quick. And which is not necessarily something I'm proud of, but I do that.
But you can listen to more that way. So good for you.
But yeah, so I just honestly find it so fascinating. And it has just opened my eyes to like, oh my gosh, there's like this literal entire other world of people living the way they want to live, with who they want to live with. And I just think it's so awesome. And then I'm like, oh wait, I'm doing that too. And that's like really fucking awesome. And so it just feels like, although you're right, I'm not part of the community. I should be. But I bring that back to her and I'm like, we are part of something bigger that's not like just here. And so in its own way, like the podcast and the audiobooks and all that, like helps me feel connected to something that I historically had not really felt connected to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm really glad you said that. Yeah. The piece around, listening, when you were saying like listening to all these other stories of people living their lives, doing things that they want, carving their own paths. And then you actually kind of caught it like, oh shit, I'm doing the same thing. It just looks different than theirs. But like, I just think it's fascinating that you're so like almost like intellectually in it and you're even physically in it, but it just looks different. And I think it's just, it's blowing my mind. Well, I don't know if you figured that out yet.
It's such a cool, it's such a cool example of doing it just in a different way that works for you. And that I know other people can relate to.
Well, I appreciate that. I just know you just hear horror stories and so many, again, not personally, but I've just heard stories of these mono-poly relationships and they're like, it's probably the poly person comes to their partner and is like, hey, I want to do this. And the monogamous person is like, okay, well, I don't want to, but I love you enough that I'm going to stay in this relationship. And while that probably is more common, the more common scenario, that I was excited to come on here and just be like, that's not always how it is. And I hadn't heard that side of things, but listening to just so many different people's stories, it's awesome that everyone kind of finds their own path along the way. And it's cool. It's cool to be here.
I'm curious, Kuran, if you have just sort of any inkling, and not that we have to solve it or that we need to stress about it, but
no, solve it.
Solve it.
I don't even know what you're going to say.
I know. This is where my pressure comes from to fix things, Emma. The just curiosity around where maybe this came from, right? Is it just the ability to drop in so deep into just wanting your partner, wanting people around you? Like, do you show up like this for other people, like friends, family?
No, I don't. That's what's actually kind of funny. Maybe I do. I don't know. But I've psychoanalyzed this so much. Like, why am I the way I am? Because we would never have gone on this journey if I had not admitted that I do have a kink about something, right? And so, like, just even thinking about that, I've gone back, retroactively. In any of these moments, I never put it together. But I had been cheated on in high school, and the cheating didn't really bother me. It was the lying. Or I guess let me rephrase. I'd been cheated on in high school, and it wasn't the act that bothered me. It was the cheating and the deceit that I found that I couldn't handle. I didn't like that aspect of it, but like, I didn't care what other people were doing, right? I just wanted to know. And then it actually happened a couple times in my relationship, in different relationships, kind of as I was growing up through maturity. And I never had thought about, what does that mean? And I can't pinpoint like something from my childhood or some repressed memory of anything. It's just kind of always been the way I am. I'm one of 6 children, so there's a lot of us. And so I think that thinking about other people, and we were never really allowed to be very selfish in what we wanted because everything was kind of communal. And so I've always kind of had a, what's good for the many is good for the few kind of aspect. And so I've always kind of liked that. I remember when we first started dating, it was long distance. And I told you on the phone that I was like, we live, a plane ride away. And so if you like need to have your needs met somewhere, that doesn't really bother me. And she was like, fuck no, like shutting that down now.
Right. Because what it felt like was that you were like, because we're so far away and I have needs that need to be met. So like, if you want to do something about it, then I can do something about it. That's what it felt like.
This was like
and not because of you, because of
You had no other
me.
context.
Right. This was the very beginning of our relationship, like weeks into the relationship. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah. In hindsight, not the move.
Well, I mean, it worked out just fine.
For some people, it may have been the move. But
You're right. Yeah.
In
Fair
this
point.
instance, there was no other context.
Well, and
Yeah,
I can
fair
totally get that the quick jump to, well, you're only bringing this up so that you can, it's something like you said, the other shoe's going to drop, something's going to drop in it. Did you have any of that fear, Taylor, when it first came up in those first few days afterwards, or were you pretty confident that it was what it was?
Well, I was pretty clear in the beginning that I was like, I don't feel that way. I don't want you to go see other people or whatever. But I never felt like I never felt like it was an agenda. And I always tell you to not wait for the other shoe to drop. So I have to take my own advice on that. But no, I didn't feel, that's not something I was waiting for. My biggest fear was that I was going to do something and he was going to be like, oh, actually, I fucking hate this. And now we're destroyed.
Yeah.
If at this point, either one of you brought it to the other that you don't want to continue on like this, is that something you've talked about? Like, is there an end game here, or it sounds like you talk a lot about a lot of different things.
Yeah, we've talked about that. And I think you have said basically that it would be disappointing, but you would respect it.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. At the end of the day, it's her body and her time and her, she can do what she wants to do. And I will never try and control that or say anything. So if she is like, nope, I don't want to do that, that would not be my first choice. I would be bummed out for sure, but I love her and I'm not going anywhere, and that's going to be, we'll still be together. I anticipate for all of that. So it would be hard, but life goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I guess to turn it around to you, if I changed my mind now, what would you say? I was like, I don't want you to do that anymore.
Well, like I said earlier, I think I really more fall into that ambiamorous. I think that I would be okay. Today, I would say that I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not also in a relationship with anybody else right now, so I think that would be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. If you were dating somebody else too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's one of the natures of this is where we're at one moment is very different, from, another. And I think in some ways we can't necessarily know. I know most of our questions were hypotheticals, what would this be like? What would that be like? And all we can do is kind of feel into it and say, yeah, well, that's where I'm at in the moment. But maybe you're deep in love with somebody else and your thought is they're going to move in and something happens and it's okay. Now we're in a new place. But it's one of the things I've taken away from this is you two have like this incredible foundation of communication that you can talk about things and just kind of in a continual way. And that's been really beautiful to watch.
Thank you.
We talk a lot.
We do.
Like a lot.
Yes, we do. We talk a lot. Mostly me, and our kids, but we talk a lot. We communicate a lot too.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. There can be a difference.
Yeah. You can hear and you can listen. There's different things.
Right. I'm curious now too, have you gotten to live out the initial fantasy that you had of Taylor's going to go out, party night, I'm going to stay home with the kids? And
I would say yes. I think we've done yes. That has occurred. There can always be more. We had story time.
I feel like there was a lot. I feel like you're downplaying this a little bit because I feel like there's been a lot of that.
Yeah, there is a lot.
There's a lot. So there's more party time.
There's more. There's plenty more
than
party
4
time.
years.
Specifically, we planned an entire trip with a big group of our friends to Vegas, and we rented a cabana at a pool party, and it got wild, and it was awesome.
Okay, that was an as need to know basis, right? Those were the first people we told actually where all these people were going to Vegas with. So that basically Kern was like, if you see Taylor doing something, no, you didn't. It's fine.
Yeah, and it was great. So that's all I'll say about that.
Need to know basis.
So mission accomplished, we'll say.
Yeah. Mission accomplished. Yeah.
Yeah.
And knowing too that you two are listeners, even at double or triple speed, I'm curious if anywhere along the way there have been any fun bloopers that you wish to share. Of course, you don't have to, but I have to imagine navigating the world in the way that you two have presents opportunities for some hilarity at times.
When is our life not a blooper?
I don't know, let me think for a second.
Okay, you think. In addition to the talking and the communicating, there's a lot of laughing.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Can you? Okay, I do have one.
Okay, go.
Yeah, so when we first started on this journey, one of the very first matches and dates she had was with this guy. And we met up at a bar. She was out with her friends, and I met up with them. And then she was like, this guy says he's available. Would it be okay if he came by? And I'm like, okay, because I don't know how any of this is supposed to work, right? So I'm like, okay. So he comes by, and he had been read in on, the situation, what was going on. So we're chatting, and I'm introducing myself to him, and he's like, I'm going to give it to your wife so hard, so good. And I'm like, okay, not quite exactly like what I'm specifically into. And it wasn't going to happen that night. But the guy had gotten drunk and then needed a ride back to his hotel that he had gotten, which we did not ask him to do. But we had car seats in the back of our car. So he ended up climbing in the back of our car, like through the passenger door, and sitting on top of our car seats while we poured him out of the hotel Circle Drive. And then he asked if he could kiss you goodnight. And I think you did give him a kiss.
I'm not sure that I did. This is the first time I'm hearing the first half of this story. Conversation, so
that was funny.
So it's two bloopers in one. Perfect. I just want to say, having navigated this world of non-monogamy for almost 2 decades for ourselves, like there's so many of those moments where we're like, I didn't even know any of that was happening. I didn't hear that was happening in the background, or what was that? Oh, that happened. Like there's, you can communicate as much as you want, and even as much as you two do, and stuff still gets like falls through the cracks. They don't seem like important details, or you think you said them. So we've got enough of those stories.
I was sitting right there, so maybe you just assumed that I heard the conversation.
It was a loud bar.
It was a loud bar.
There we go. Perfect.
Well, thank you both so much for tonight. It was wonderful just getting to know you and to have everything that you shared put out there. Is there anything else you would like to share before we let you go on with the rest of your evening and get some sleep?
I'm grateful for you all and what you're doing, truly. You were one of the first podcasts I listened to that wasn't like just sexy stories, right? Or like intentionally kind of, and there's nothing wrong with that kind of, that avenue, but I wanted to get more information, and just hearing other people's, it's in your name, normalizing non-monogamy, just like normal people doing this in a normal way that's not sensationalized, or they're not professionals, was really helpful for me. And so I binged it early on and took a lot away from that. And so I really appreciate you guys and the work you're doing.
And the nights that you host, that's been great for us, just to be, even though online, surrounded by people who are like us and who are our age, and just, it's been very helpful.
Awesome. Yeah. We've loved having you on the virtual meet and greets. They've been great.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. Yeah, as Emma said, they've been great. Also, you always sign on with your amazing neon sign that lights up behind you. It says like, let's party something?
It says, I want a house with a crowded table. It's a Highwaymen song.
Perfect. Well, that's how I always get excited when you sign on. I'm like, oh, yeah, the neon sign's there. So, well, we look forward to seeing you two hopefully at the next one, or at an upcoming one. And until then, thank you both for everything. Looking forward to having you back on in the future, because I have a feeling the story is going to keep being amazing, and we're excited to hear more about it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you both.
Sure thing.
Thank you for having us.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Taylor and Kuran, for everything today. Again, we just love talking to you and just are so excited to get your story out there. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And echoing that from my side, thank you to both of you. Also, it's pretty awesome. I know we ragged on Kuran and Taylor for not being in our community during this interview.
Yes.
But they are now.
Yes.
And also the virtual meet and greets that they talked about, how we originally got to know them. As you probably know right now, those are on hold until the fall, but they're coming back.
They will be back.
These are the types of amazing people you'll meet when those events come back up.
Yes. And a few couple
reminders.
A few reminders for you. The week of visibility for non-monogamy is coming up July 15th to the 19th. We are doing a free workshop on July 17th called Is There a Right Way to Do Non-Monogamy? You can sign up using the links in your podcast player or on the banner on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Also, we are hosting a community retreat in September 13th to the 15th in the San Francisco Bay Area. More information on that is on the community tab of our website.
And one more time, just because we can, get yourself a copy of What is Compersion by Dr. Marie Tuin.
Yes.
You will not regret it. There are links in your podcast player show notes. Or
go check out her work. It is amazing.
It is amazing. Or on the podcast show notes on our website that will take you to the actual website for the publisher. And listed there is a discount code to save yourself 25%.
Yes.
So do that. You will not regret it.
And next week, we have an interview with Michael. So come back and listen, as always, every Wednesday. And I think that's it.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.
We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
You thought I wasn't going to let you do it.
No.